In September of 2009, 4 people were found brutally attacked in their homes. Authorities described the crime scene as a slaughterhouse that stank of decay. The bodies had been laying there for several days before police intervened, even though authorities had many chances to get involved in the preceding few days. The 4 victims were 16-year-old Emma Niederbrock, her friend 18-year-old Melanie Wells, and her parents, 50-year-old Mark Niederbrock and 53-year-old Deborah Kelly. In today's video, we'll attempt to untangle the complex web of events that led to these 4 individuals. We'll trace the connections between this incident and the emerging horrorcore scene, a musical genre that Emma and Melanie were obsessed with, and a community that had a homicidal maniac hiding within its ranks. Mark and Deborah were about as normal as people can be. Mark was an Illinois native who graduated from the state's university and eventually found work as a graphic designer. However, he found Jesus at some point and decided to become a pastor. In the 6 years leading up to the incident, Mark had been working at Walker's Presbyterian Church in nearby Hicksburg, where he became a widely respected member of the community. Deborah, on the other hand, was clearly a woman of ambition. After getting her doctorate, she became an associate professor of sociology and criminal studies at Longwood University in Farmville, where she mentored several successful members of law enforcement. She and Mark settled down in a small town of just a few thousand people to stay close to her place of work. On October 15, 1992, Mark and Deborah had a daughter whom they named Emma. She was a well-adjusted kid, but she eventually gave in to one of the most widespread emotional states in Middle America: teenage angst. When she was about 15 years old, Emma's parents took her out of school and began homeschooling her. This created a sense of isolation that created an intense frustration in the teenage girl. Her parents watched as she entered a rebellious phase that never seemed to end. When her parents divorced in early 2009, her life seemed to fall further apart, even though her parents stayed on good terms. Emma discovered a genre of music called horrorcore and felt connected to the over-the-top lyrics that described brutal violence and sexual assault. For many fans of the genre, these lyrics are simply an outlet for repressed rage or frustration, and the community itself could be quite welcoming and friendly. Artists in the community weren't the sort to avoid their fans. Instead, they usually formed friendships with fans and did whatever they could to support their own. Emma felt lonely in the tiny town of Farmville, so online horrorcore forums became a safe haven for her. It was in one of these forums that she met Melanie, a slightly older girl that lived in Virginia and felt a connection with Emma. Melanie also had a Presbyterian pastor for a father, so the 2 girls shared their frustrations at living in such a repressive environment. 1, 2, here, now you got 2. Just wait, go through the hole. Say, there we go. Ready? Come around, and sit. Oh. Another individual she met on these forums was a horrorcore artist who went by Psycho Sam. This was a pseudonym, of course. Psycho Sam was actually a 19-year-old boy named Richard, and he quickly became obsessed with the much younger Emma. Richard Alden Samuel McCroskey III was born on December 26, 1988. He had an older sister named Sarah and lived with his mother and father in Castro Valley, California, although they were born in nearby Hayward. The people he grew up with describe him as a quiet kid and a bit of a pushover. He was frequently bullied at school for his weight and for his red hair, making him an outcast among his peers. It's fair to say that McCroskey liked it that way. He was also a rather weird kid who didn't enjoy most of the things you'd expect. Throughout his childhood, he had a deep and passionate hatred of music to the point where he destroyed speakers to make the noise stop. However, all of this changed when he was about 11 or 12. During a trip to the dentist, McCroskey's father played his Insane Clown Posse CD, and the kid was immediately mesmerized by the horrorcore band. Later on, he stole his dad's CD to burn a copy of it, and his love of horrorcore began. This affinity for a violent genre of music coincided with McCroskey's performing miserably at school. It might have been the bullying, or perhaps he just didn't know how to fit into the standard educational system. But McCroskey ended up dropping out of 2 high schools before finally giving up. Now, that's not to say that McCroskey was unintelligent. He actually had a knack for graphic design and even had plans to start a company of his own. But the thing is, his introduction to horrorcore eventually derailed all of that. pretty soon, McCroskey bought himself a cheap microphone and started recording his own music, eventually taking on the moniker of Psycho Sam. His lyrics spoke about his desire to take lives and commit assaults, which horrorcore fans took to be the fantasy roleplay that most other artists take part in. McCroskey released several songs on his MySpace page and got deeply involved in the horrorcore community. He was accepted by other horrorcore artists and showed a real talent for writing, even though these talents were channeled into a pretty destructive outlet. The boy also showed many signs of antisocial behavior. After creating a YouTube channel in 2006, McCroskey began making uploads that ranged from concert recordings to videos of him defiling the graves of dead Marines. We defiled the grave. And then, lightning struck seconds ago. I think we're being warned. I think we're gonna check out with the rain, man. And now it's starting to rain. It's because we both your fault, man. Fucked up here. It's not my fault. And look at what it's like. So now it's starting to rain really hard. So, peace, Negroes. In 2008, when he was 19, he met 15-year-old Emma. They got along really well and soon started talking on the phone every single day. McCroskey thought that Emma was in love with him, that she truly wanted to be with him even though they were thousands of miles apart, and the pair shared videos to get to know each other better. All right, so you wanted a video, and you made me videos, so... And he said, please, so I'll make you this video, even though I'm not gonna, do anything, because my room's kind of dirty, and... Yeah, I don't want to show you my dirty room. But this video is for Emma, because he just told me to say your name, so... I don't know. I'll make you another video once clean, I promise. Unless you just want to see my wall. Because that's not dirty. But behind me is dirty, so. That's not good. While his relationship with Emma blossomed, McCroskey faced some serious problems at home. His father kicked his mother out of the house in April of 2009, something that probably strengthened his bond with Emma, whose parents had also split up just a few months ago. Emma, McCroskey, and Melanie made plans to meet up in September to go to a horrorcore music festival called Strictly for the Wicked. On August 26th, McCroskey uploaded a video to his channel called HD Testing, in which he shows all of the horrorcore posters on his bedroom wall. It ended up being the last video he ever posted. That's a pizza Christian. Why? When I asked for the very she said, you know, yeah, this not the this the big die down. This soft is so McCroskey arrived in Farmville on September 17th. Melanie had also flown in and was staying with Emma and Deborah at the time. Deborah had some concerns about letting an older boy stay in the same home as her daughter, but seeing Emma happy for the first time since the divorce made her change her mind. She agreed to let McCroskey stay, but said that the trio could only go to the horrorcore festival if she and Mark could accompany them. While McCroskey flew to Virginia, Emma posted on his MySpace saying that by the time he saw the post, he'd be in her home. She told him how much she loved him and how excited she was that she'd finally get to meet him. However, it seems like things didn't go according to plan because McCroskey wasn't who Emma thought he'd be. Despite being 20 years old at this point, McCroskey still acted like a child. His behavior put Emma off, but since they'd already made plans to go to the festival, she decided to be polite and see it through. The prospect of watching her favorite horrorcore bands was too good to pass up, and even if McCroskey was a disappointment, she'd still be able to have a good time with Melanie. On September 12th, Mark and Deborah set off on the 10-hour drive to Michigan, where the festival was being held. McCroskey must have been excited to spend some time with Emma, who he considered to be his girlfriend, but Emma had other plans. People that knew her say that she'd never called McCroskey her boyfriend, only that they'd been getting close. There's a chance that McCroskey made an assumption about their relationship, and at the festival, he started to see how wrong he was. According to testimony and statements, McCroskey got very upset when he saw Emma flirting with other guys at the show. She also pointedly avoided McCroskey, who may have been acting very clingy and expecting affection that she didn't want to give. Things started to escalate when Emma swapped numbers with a guy. Later on, McCroskey would violate her privacy by checking her messages, where he saw that the guy had asked Emma to be his girlfriend. No one noticed anything unusual about McCroskey, though. He seemed to have kept the lid on his turbulent emotion, and the group returned to Farmville in the early hours of September 14th. At about 2:43 a.m., Melanie posted to MySpace about how much fun she'd had at the show, how she missed her family, and that she'd be back home on the 16th. As she posted these messages, McCroskey drank alcohol, smoked illegal substances, and took strong pain medications. He claimed he had a migraine, but there's a chance that he was numbing himself for what he was about to do. By the way, I post true crime and new cases here every day, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, please consider subscribing. It helps a lot. He headed for the airport to buy a ticket home. Through some stroke of luck, McCroskey didn't have enough money to buy the next flight home. He had to wait until the next morning, and since he had nowhere else to go, he fell asleep in the waiting area. The police had finally realized that McCroskey was the culprit, and they had put out the word to apprehend the suspect by any means necessary. Airport security captured footage of him, and a security guard informed police of where he was. In custody, McCroskey made a remark that showed just how little he cared about his actions.
Jesus told me to do it.
Jesus told him to do it. According to his sister, McCroskey had a very sarcastic sense of humor, and this was his idea of a joke. But it also shows that he didn't fully understand the gravity of his actions, or human life simply meant nothing to him. Police initially tried connecting him to 2 more homicides in the area and charged him with 6 counts of capital homicide. 2 of the charges were dropped, but McCroskey was still eligible for the death penalty for the 4 remaining counts. He eventually pleaded guilty in exchange for some leniency from the judge and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. McCroskey is currently serving his sentence at Wallens Ridge State Prison in Big Stone Gap, Virginia. There have been some reports that the prisoners don't like him much and regularly bully him, although these reports haven't been confirmed. If they are true, some might see them as a karmic justice considering the lives that McCroskey took and the horrors he left in his wake. Melanie's parents will have to take solace in the fact that he can't hurt anyone else ever again. So what do you think of this case? Did McCroskey deserve the death penalty, or is life without parole an appropriate punishment for his actions? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you like the way we create these videos and you want to help bring more cases like this to light, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Thank you once again for watching.